Dan Le Batard was there till the very end. He joins us now. How are you, Danny?
My father's still there, sitting courtside, just staring at the court.
I'm not sure where to start or finish with this. It was all over the place there. The range of emotion. I try to understand this from a Miami Heat perspective and a San Antonio Spurs fan's perspective. But as a Miami fan, did you think you were done?
Well, I mean, I guess you have to sort of feel that way, but you know how sports are. You know, sports, we always think, we want to think that we know what's going to happen or have some control over it, or our belief is something that matters. But really what ends up happening there is just that sports always provides the surprises. We don't actually know. We never know. That's why we keep coming back. But in terms of where to start, it's really hard to find a place where to start when you consider this, Dan. Tony Parker, he's had a pretty good career.
Yeah.
He hit two of the biggest shots of his career in that game and had the biggest sequence with a steal between them. Nobody asked him about that after the game, Dan. He was at the press conference podium and was not asked one question about two of the biggest shots in a Hall of Fame career from maybe the best point guard in the game right now. And, you know, that just tells you how wildly everything swung there.
I don't know if it's good that we have very little downtime in between these games for the Spurs, or the fact that we have very little downtime for them to try to regroup energy-wise, emotionally, to be able to go for a Game 7.
Well, there's not a lot of difference between these teams, though. I mean, we could sit there and say that they spent their old players yesterday, but, you know, these teams are really even, Dan. And you saw last night that a bounce or a free throw changes the result. I mean, I don't know. Nobody knows how they're going to react to that, whether they'll be devastated. I know the Heat are exhausted. I mean, hell, just the fans around these teams are exhausted. Just the writers covering it. The media is tired. Now, I understand we subsist on, you know, hot dogs and fried food and junk, and we're not quite as fit as these guys. But if we're tired all around these games, how can both of these teams not be fried?
I have to question Greg Popovich, and as I said, he's forgotten more than I know, but I got to have my best players on the floor, and Tim Duncan not being out there late in the game. What'd you think?
Yeah, see, that's the thing, though, Dan. We always do this. We find the places to put the blame, and I'm not blaming you. We do it all the time. It's weird to me in the fun and games world, the circus world, that instead of crediting the victors, we will locate the places to put the blame. And when you say win with your best players, I'm absolutely with you on that. But Manu Ginobili had 8 turnovers last night as Popovich tried to win with one of his best players, a 3-time champion. And Spo could have been considered for a fireable offense, putting Dwayne Wade back in that game with 3 minutes left when everything was going fine with LeBron, but he was going with his best players. So we could sit there and take the results and do whatever we want with them. For example, I'll give you the example. At the end of the game, we're crediting today Chris Bosh with making a block of Danny Green and way to be there at the end. If a referee had just decided in that situation on a whim, hey, I think there was a contact there, we are crushing Chris Bosh for being a stupid person. That's how fine the line is this time of year when the stakes climb this high.
Yeah, but I can credit the Heat for what they did, but there has to be an opening from the other end. If Duncan's not on the floor, it allows you to get some of the 2 big offensive rebounds there. I have to start with that. At some point,
of course, but
yeah, go ahead.
We always have the result. We're almost armed with the result. Like, see, if Duncan had been on the court and for whatever reason one of Miami's shooters was open, then we would have gone that route and said, well, why is Duncan on the court? He can't get out there. I mean, Vogel did the same thing with Hibbert. Vogel did, and we crushed him too. But like, we always have the result. And the thing that's frustrating to me with this as analysis, Dan, is these guys, because as you mentioned, they know so much more than us. Mm-hmm. Imagine, like, you're really good at radio. You've been doing this a while. You know how to do it. Imagine if after every show that you did, you had to walk into a room afterward and be surrounded by a group of people who don't know one fraction of what you do, about what you do, and all they did was hyper dissect every syllable you did, armed with the result. If you're looking for a reason that Popovich is that way, the way that he is, curmudgeon jackass, that's the reason, because he's looking around at a room of people who don't know a fraction of what he knows.
He's Dan Le Batard, the Miami Herald, also 790 The Ticket in Miami, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. If Ray Allen doesn't hit the 3 Finish that sentence.
Oh, it starts raining frogs on the court. It's the apocalypse. Locusts. Eric
Cicadas.
Carried out of the arena by locusts.
I've never seen a player have the status that LeBron has, but it's not each game. It's not each quarter. It's almost as if it's each possession. His legacy somehow is up for grabs. Can you think of anybody who has been scrutinized like that, where we begrudgingly hand out compliments to him? And the criticism last night was just unbelievable on Twitter as I'm watching that feed.
I think the coverage of him speaks worse of us than it does of him because of how it knee-jerks, because of how it hyperventilates, because of how it careens last night from possession to possession. Like, that story was written. LeBron choked again. He's mentally frail. Look at the turnovers in the last minute. Like, that story was written, and then it wasn't. Then we had to rewrite it. And that game, a lot of random stuff happened in that game. And, he's cursed by Michael Jordan, never played a Game 7 in the finals and always won when he got there. But I do remind you, Dan, that we questioned him, too, every springing step he took. He was the ball hog who you can't win that way with him. He doesn't share the ball enough. He, this is the year Clyde Drexler gets him. Charles Barkley's going to get him. Patrick Ewing, Reggie Miller's going to get him. Karl Malone's going to get him. Like, we did that. We did it to Michael Jordan as well, and that's a hard one to live up to.
I just hope, and I picked the Heat to win this series, and I just want people to realize sometimes you can grow up or you watch sports and you hate somebody, dislike somebody, don't root for somebody, and you miss their entire career. For whatever reason that is, you're seeing something special here. If he does get to the second title, I hope we then move on to somebody else because he's trying. Remember, he wouldn't take the shot before. He was afraid to take the big shot. He was taking shots last night. Did he have a couple of bad turnovers? Absolutely. Did he have a bad three that he put up? Yes, absolutely. But he didn't pout. He didn't disappear, and he came up big when he needed to. Albeit you're waiting for him to go into the phone booth to come out with the cape on. Took a little bit longer than I thought, but I still saw it. He got a triple-double once again, and I don't know if he had a great game.
Yeah, well, the standard is very high with him, obviously, but you know how this works. And he's a rare athlete because A-Rod is the only other one in my career. Usually we'll grant you lifetime immunity once you won a title. And A-Rod's the only one in my career because of how he floundered last postseason, or maybe because of the cheating, too, or maybe because people just don't like him. A-Rod, we came crashing right back down on him. Usually, you win a title, you're golden forever. Dwayne Wade's still living off of that title in 2006. But we were ready to pounce on LeBron James. And here's the thing about last night. Even if he wins the next title, Dan, we're not going to rally around and pat him on the back and say, hey, you earned our respect. You took it from us begrudgingly. All we're going to do is shuffle away and start yelling at Dwight Howard and Carmelo Anthony.
If you left early, would you admit it or lie forever?
I would lie forever and hope nobody saw the video of me pounding on the glass doors outside of the arena and being led away with handcuffs with a police record on for eternity because I tried to get back in there.
I would love to hear from people calling in your show later today about those who admit it. You might have to disguise their voice or something or, their name. But I would love to hear what they had to say. And that feeling of being on the outside. I've never met somebody who left the Dodger-A's game when Gibson homered. Nobody ever said I left early. I'd like to know what people said or how that felt to be on the outside listening to a crowd and not being inside.
Yeah, that's there's going to be so many people who can do that today. And the worst part is if we keep filling them up with truth serum, it's going to be really embarrassing when they say, well, I really had to rush out there because I needed to get to that club where I could listen to Iconopop play I Love It, I Don't Care for the 15th time. Really need to hurry and get to that because of what I was watching I wasn't quite grateful enough for.
Thank you, Dan. We appreciate it.
All right, guys. Always good talking to you.
Dan Le Batard. Dan Le Batard, highly questionable, Miami Herald columnist.